What's up, everybody? I hope you're having a great day or a great night, whatever it is. I mean, you must be because you're hanging out with JBM Sports Media. This is the Eastern Conference prediction. Now, I got obviously my partners in crime. I got Ben and Joe. I'm Mike. If you guys forgot, I don't think you shouldn't have, but just to remind you, I wasn't there for the Western Conference, you know, but I'm here for the East. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there for that recording, but here we go. I'm going to kick it to either one of you. I don't know which one of you wanted first to lead us off with where our bold predictions are for the East. So, Joe, Ben, have at it.
Absolutely. So let's break down this bracket right here, starting off with this tier list more so. First place, obviously self-explanatory, first place in the Eastern Conference. Second and fourth, the teams that we feel like are going to be strong contenders in the Eastern Conference. Fifth and sixth, avoiding the play-in. Then we have the play-in teams, which will be four teams, the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seed. Then we have 11 through 15, basically the teams that aren't going to be looking that good in the East this year. There's going to be some surprises here, ladies and gentlemen. There's going to be some surprises. I feel like some teams compared to last year are going to take some steps up, and there's going to be a little bit of a downfall for certain teams as we're going to get into right now. I'll throw it to JV before we get into it if he has any words.
So, I mean, listen, this Eastern Conference is the most wide open it's been in a while. There's been a lot of talk the last couple of years. You could usually pencil in the first 3 or 4 teams in the East, and then it was kind of a crapshoot from there. But then you could also kind of place where the bottom teams were going to finish out, knowing that those teams were always going to be at the bottom. But now you have a lot of good teams that are really going to make a change, like you said, like Detroit, potentially Atlanta, maybe, makes it in, maybe not as a play-in, but we'll see where we have them ranked. Obviously we have the Cavs and the Bucks and the Knicks, all teams that are going to make the playoffs. But there are some surprise teams, like Orlando is going to be, in the middle of that mix. So it's maybe Philly is at the bottom. We'll see. Like it's definitely going to be different from the years past. But like I said, this East is really wide open for a lot of teams to make some headway that maybe haven't in the past.
Yeah. Without further ado, let's get straight into the list. I feel like, we done hyped it up a lot. Let's get straight into it. All right, starting off, we're going to go from bottom to top. Obviously, build up the suspense. So 15th, actually, these guys are from New York. And no, it's not the Knicks, obviously. So it's actually.
You never know, man. You never know. The Knicks do wild stuff all the time, bro. You never know. Don't count that.
15th's a stretch, though. I mean,
no, I'm kidding. It's just I'm so used to it as a Knicks fan, man.
Yeah, so we have the Brooklyn Nets at 15. We all agree they're gonna be arguably one of the worst teams in the whole NBA, not just the Eastern Conference. I think the NBA, they had 5 picks in this past draft. They got Igor Demin, Danny Wolf. I'm a big Danny Wolf fan for Michigan. Look, this Nets team does still have talent. They traded Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. in the offseason. That's their big move. Michael Porter Jr., he can now go crazy. Doesn't have to play make, nothing at all. Shoot how many shots you want. Him and Cam Thomas are going to be out there. Just forget passing the ball. Just shooting it. Because at this point, what do you got to lose? I'll let you guys have some thoughts about the Nets real quick. Obviously, you guys are from New York, but it's funny.
Well, personally for me, I still think they're about three to 5 years out with all these picks that they've accumulated and drafted. That's just the nature of the game. When you have as many picks as they did and were able to get as many draft picks as they had, you have to take time to mold them. I don't think it's going to take overnight, and obviously, it's going to be a long run for them. So I see them finishing towards anywhere between 13th to 15th for the next 3 to 4 years until those guys really gel together, in that organization. So, yeah, I say for 2025-26, they will be the 15th team in the East, rounding out that conference.
I love what you brought up that you said the Nets are 3 to 5 years away from competing. They've been 3 to 5 years away from competing for the last 15 years. We're being honest. So maybe it's 3 times 5, and that's what gets them where they are. I mean,
they did compete when they had Kyrie and
KD.
That was short lived.
Obviously, against Ben's Bucks, foot on the line, right, Ben?
Foot on the line.
They were competing when they had the guys there. Yeah. They were in the playoffs, and then once that team got dismantled, it was a wrap for them. So obviously, they're going to be rounding out the bottom of the conference for a while, I think.
Don't forget, KD and Kyrie chose Brooklyn over the Knicks. Just pointing that
Yes,
out
they
there.
did. And
And
I'll never
where did
forget
that
that.
go? Where did that go? Anyways,
Exactly.
we'll move on. 14th, equally gonna be as bad. Could be 15th, to be honest with you. I don't think there's no debate here. We got the Washington Wizards, another year of their rebuild. I'm excited to see Alex Sarr's sophomore year. I think I saw some decent highlights, not more so highlights, but just some progression in the second half of last year. Jordan Poole's gone. CJ McCollum is now a part of the Wizards. Another year of, I hated to even mention it, Chris Middleton's a Wizard. Jeez, I love that guy so much. And we sent him to rot for Kyle Kuzma. Jeez, it's like horrible. I can't even explain, but I love Bilal Coulibaly. Very underrated player in this league, and hopefully I know he's a little bit banged up, but hopefully he makes the steps into the right direction this year. Keyshawn George, that's another one right there. Yeah, I think they have some good role players, but at the end of the day, it's going to be another tank year for the Washington Wizards. I'll throw it to you guys, but that's just my point on it.
Yeah, they have a lot of young talent. I mean, it's like I said, that's another team that, usually when you're rounding out the bottom of this list, you're a couple of years away from competing. They got young guys like Trey Johnson, still 19 years old. He's a point guard for them. Obviously, Mackley Branham is another guy. We'll see. I mean, it's going to take some time. Like like I said, these teams at the bottom, usually they're 3 to 5 years out of just competing. You have to see how these guys gel, how quick they could, get into a rhythm of playing some competitive basketball. So I see Washington as another team along with the Nets that is going to be flip-flopping for that 14th and 15th spot for this year, maybe for the next few years to come, to be honest with you.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that's going to be the theme of the episode, that these teams are either 3 to 5 years away or they're going to be competing for 3 to 5 years. I think that's going to be the trend. 3 to 5 years seems to be the sweet spot. No, the Wizards, I mean, listen, everything went south with them. They had a decent little, but they had arguably one of the best backcourts in basketball the last couple of years. And then, everything went downhill dramatically. I mean, John Wall completely disappeared. And then obviously they ended up trading away Bradley Beal. And, they were on their way to building something. I think they had Marcin Gortat at one point. I mean, that team looked promising, and then it just never seemed to gel. And, so they're feeling the effects of that. They're still dealing with that aftermath. And like you said, they have a ton of young talent, and it's really just about developing them, so that's obviously what they have to do. And they got to hope that they do it right. And barring that nobody gets hurt, that's, it's unfortunate, and they got to pull themselves out of it, and they got to draft right. They got to draft right. They got to develop right, and they got to coach right. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a tall task. I would assume, but this is what we got to do.
Yeah, I think their coach right now is one of the coaches I believe is on a hot seat. I think this might be depending. I know the team is not good. I get that, but they might want to go into another direction with maybe a younger coach next year, maybe one that fits more of the mold. So that's just a point. Let's keep on going. 13th. And to be quite honest, it sucks because I love the talent that they actually do have on this roster, specific players, but we got to put, I'll switch it right there, the Charlotte Hornets at 13th. I mean, look, I love the draft pick of Conca-Nipple. How could you not love that name?
Yeah.
I mean, look, the guy, one of the best. I mean, look, he's a straight up spot up shooter. He's going to give you what he's going to give you, those threes. Him and LaMelo, I could see LaMelo diming the ball off to him a lot, to be honest. Now talking about LaMelo, please, if this guy could just stay healthy, first and foremost, his ankles, I feel like, always give out on this guy, always. And he's so talented. Yes, he might not be the most efficient player in the league. He does turn the ball over quite a lot. But at the same time, he's still young. He's still so capable of this maybe being his franchise. But I've heard rumblings around that the Hornets kind of still see him a little bit immature. And if that's the case, do they really want to put him as a franchise player or a guy that I'm about to talk about right now, Brandon Miller? Brandon Miller, a great player. He just got to stay healthy. I've seen him in preseason a few times these past few games that there's been some preseason action, and he's looked really good. Please, can this guy stay healthy? At the end of the day, I feel like the Hornets are going to be one of those bad teams that are fun, that are exciting a little bit. That they will give you the highlights, the LaMelo lobs to Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges. They're going to give you you some highlights. It's true. Colin Sexton is now a Hornet as well.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. So I still don't see this team really competing for a play-in. I got to be honest. I don't really trust the health of that team in general. But what do you guys think?
I mean, they're a really young team too. I mean, like again, I know Ro was saying that the kind of the theme is going to be that 3 to 5 year spot. Usually it takes that 3 to 5 years though, and after that, if those guys don't really pan out, it's what do you do? Now you're in like between a rock and a hard place. If your top picks don't pan out after 5 years, you're kind of in panic mode, and because what do you expect after that 5th year if your team hasn't really competed for a playoff spot? Now it's almost like you have to kind of dismantle it and maybe restart again because you don't want to, keep going and possibly get the same result of not making the playoffs. So that's why I'm saying like it's going to take this a little bit of time to see if these guys gel. Kind of like guys like you said, Trey Mann, KJ Simpson. These guys are still pretty young, and if Ball can't stay healthy, they're only going to go as far as Ball goes. So and he's their floor general, and if he's not going to be able to be on the court, then it's going to be tough for them to compete, like you said. And that's only going to prolong their process of becoming a team to reckon with in this conference.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as regarding Ball. I mean, he like you said, he's got to stay healthy. That's number one. Ben, you make a good point too. As far as him, maybe how the Hornets view him, maybe a little immature. I mean, listen, he's still a young kid, but in the same regard, though, he comes from a big family, big personality. His dad, LeVar, has been all over the place saying wild stuff for the last few years about each one of his kids, and that I think that adds to the pressure. Maybe they feel like they have to live up to it. I don't know, but like you said, there's going to be a lot of highlight reels on this. Out of the, I guess, bottom feeders of the East, I see them being the biggest pain, though. I feel like they have the talent, they got the speed, they got the transition. With LaMelo running the show, I mean, as long as he steps up into that leadership role and takes that next step, then, maybe there's some promise there. Like I said, out of everybody, they could be the most annoying team out of the bottom, and they could be maybe the team that we're projecting in the bottom that has a real shot to maybe make a move. I could see that potentially being a thing. But we're gonna see how that plays out, and it's all going to determine on LaMelo's health and his growth as a leader. I think those are the two biggest things.
Yeah, that is a good point, though. That is a good point because they're going to need him to be mature if that is the case.
Yeah.
Because he's, like I said, they have a young team, and if there's no guidance for that young team, they'll just be lost. And you do need a player like Melo, who's their best player. I know he's still young, but he's been in the league long enough he should realize that the time is now to take the reins as that guy with that captain mentality and try to get them to win. If they can win upwards of 36, 37 games this year, if they're all healthy, playing well, that'll be a win for that franchise. But like I said, I just don't see how they get to that point right now.
Nah, I don't see it. I don't see it because at the end of the day, this is probably going to be, out of these bottom feeders, one of the best offenses in these bottom feeders, but defensively, they're going to be absolutely atrocious. Defensively, I have no faith in this Hornets team. LaMelo Miller, Bridges, even to an extent, defensively are not going to, at least they're going to be at least a 130 each night on these guys, 130 to 120 each night on these guys. And this is the truth. It's today's NBA. Let's keep on going. 12th seed, and I wanted to actually put the Hornets over them, but they just are so mediocre. They're always in this position to fight for the play-in, and their owner loves this. We have the Chicago Bulls. Jerry Reinsdorf's probably ecstatic right now. We're putting them right here. Even, they could fight for a play-in, I'll be honest, but they're used to this mediocre playoff. It's not even on the players, but just what the owners and, the GM had invested in this team. Look, I love Buzelis. Buzelis is one of my favorite young players. Kobe White, is he going to stay there? I honestly think this is the moment. If you're not going to extend him because he has coming up on free agency, unrestricted free agency. Look, if you're not going to extend him, bro, trade him. You have to get some chips at this point. Yeah. The Bulls have to go all the way in, and I hope so for Bulls fans, diehard Bulls fans, that they do, because this used to be a team that people admired in the 90s. Michael Jordan's Bulls, What's happened since then? I know Derrick Rose, obviously youngest MVP, but that only lasted its time. But really competing for a championship, come on. I mean, they're far away from the Bulls of old. And I understand why certain Bulls fans are very upset because the product that they saw in the 90s, nowhere near. And investing in the team, the drafting hasn't been the best. I mean, we got to keep it a buck. So I think there is exciting pieces on this team. Could Patrick Williams somehow bounce back? Vucevic, excuse my language, how is Vucevic still on this team? How? Somebody,
yeah.
How? This guy's doing this defensively, offensively. He sucks too. He can't even throw a post hook properly, bro. I mean, I'm sorry. I do love this sport a lot, but it's tough. It's tough.
No, you have a point.
Somebody took over. Almost had a stroke.
No. No, you have a point. Listen, they got Josh Giddey's over there, Trey Jones, Javon Carter. It looks like they had some talent, and it's almost like it's almost like a lazy type of progression. The Bulls. It's almost like they could be a team that maybe you could sniff a play in, and they're just not. They're going to be again floating around that 11th through 15th spot, and it's just going to be it's almost like the dog days of August all year for them. That's how it's going to be. When you think maybe they're turning a corner, maybe they'll win 2-3 games in a row, and it's like, oh, they're turning a corner. No, they'll lose 8 in a row, and they'll just show their true colors.
Yeah,
that's just how I feel with this team, and it's been like that for a couple of years. And like you said, Reinsdorf doesn't care as long as he's filling seats in the arena. He doesn't really care where they finish because he knows they'll fill it, and that's really that. And as long as he's making his money at the gate, he doesn't really care. And if they do make the playoffs, oh wow, it's almost like it's like an added benefit. Like, that's great, we made the playoffs. But like I said, again, they're another team that I don't even want to put the 3 to 5 year stamp on them. Who knows how long they'll take to come around, because technically their owner doesn't look like they wants to improve the team.
Nope.
I mean, they've got some decent pieces, like I said, but when it comes to actually putting a real winner together, I don't see how it's going to happen in the next couple of years. I really don't.
No, I agree with that also. My issue with the Bulls, and like Ben said, going back to the Jordan days, ever since, like, it's not even that they're trying to replicate what happened in the 90s, but they had a lot of decent chances, like, throughout, I would say, the last 20 years. They've had some really good young teams come together. Like Ben mentioned, you had Derrick Rose. He was he was the youngest MVP in history. I remember when they had Noah, Carlos Boozer at one point, Luol Deng. Like, those teams were nasty. Even going prior, even a little earlier than that, when they had Kirk Heinrich and Ben Gordon, and they were actually building something. Jamal Crawford, honestly, arguably one of my favorite Knicks of all time that I got to see growing up. Loved Jamal Crawford everywhere he went. Talk about an ex-Knick, a debacle, Eddie Curry,
my God,
yeah. And then they've had some blunders with their signings. I mean, they brought in Ben Wallace, and that signing was atrocious. Ben Wallace completely fell off the face of the earth and was not who he was in Detroit. That didn't work out, and it just seems like anything they try to put together seems to not work. And they'll get the talent, or at least they'll get the piece or the building block or the starting point, and then it just all collapses in on itself. And that seems to be the trend lately, I would say, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, give or take. Like, pretty much since the Rose era, Noah era somewhat came to an end. Like, this is kind of where the Bulls have been. I don't know. I don't know if I see a light at the end of the tunnel with this team. Outside of maybe Brooklyn and Washington and the Hornets kind of, maybe gelling with some of the young talent. I mean, you could almost argue that maybe the Bulls just completely fall off the planet, and maybe they end up in the last seed. I mean, that's very possible. Like I said, I could see the Hornets maybe make a little noise, like sneaking away out of this, bottom 4. Where does that leave the Bulls? Bottom 3? Well, maybe the Wizards beat them. Maybe the Wizards win one more game. And the Nets, if you're talking about a couple wins, then it's really just a matter of efficiency and what's really going on. If the Bulls are getting blown out every other night and they don't look competitive, I mean, maybe they could be considered, maybe their record won't say it, but maybe they could be considered the last team in the East.
Yeah, just kind of to add on to that, they are or specifically Jerry Reinsdorf, satisfied with just simply put, they're satisfied with being mid. It's the truth. They're satisfied with being mid. It's very unfortunate for those Bulls fans that are very much loving the team that the way they do. They have some of the most diehard fans, kind of in the way that Knicks fans, bro. Some of the most diehard fans, Chicago Bulls fans, but they haven't had a product. I mean, the fact of the matter is some of the signings, kind of how Mike mentioned it. Look, when they signed Lonzo Ball to that deal, did they think that his knee, he was going to have to get completely a knee replacement? Absolutely not. It's just they've been unlucky. They sometimes made the wrong moves that haven't, added up. So look, at the end of the day, it's very unfortunate with this team, but I don't see them being a play-in team this year. Yes, they have Giddey. Giddey had a good stretch at the end. I don't know. I feel like at the trade deadline, we might see them move some key pieces from that team, but let's keep on going before I have another stroke. All right, a team that's going to fall off, in my opinion, and it's going to be crazy because of what happened in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, but I don't really have faith in this team. I'll be honest. I'll talk about it a little bit, but 11th seed, barely missing the play-in. I have the Indiana Pacers. I do think, and I know Rick Carlisle was a hell of a head coach, one of the best head coaches in the league, but let's say Siakam goes down for a few weeks. Are you confident that this team could even win 2 games? And it's going to be brutal though, because they're not going to have their facilitator and their playmaker in Halliburton. Siakam, I do trust him to be a lead option, but I kind of saw that in Toronto for a few years when he was a lead option. Not the best product on the field, on the court, but I don't really trust this roster without a facilitator like Halliburton. I don't trust it. No Miles Turner. Let's add that right there. The key piece that was there for 10 years, gone. So it's going to be a little bit of a retool year. And guess what? They traded back for their pick that they didn't own, their upcoming pick. They traded back and got it in the draft with the Pelicans. So I think they kind of know that this might be a little bit of a retool year. Maybe get a good pick. Who knows? They sneak in the top 10. That's kind of where my mind is at right now with the Pacers. I'll let you guys talk about it. Crazy, because this team was just in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's definitely wild. Representing this conference coming out, in the finals this year. Nobody would have thought, honestly. I know. I know I didn't have them picked to go as far as they did. But there's gonna have to be guys that step up. Andrew Nembhard is gonna be a guy that's gonna have to step up. Like I said, they lost a lot of key players. Obviously, Halliburton's out for the year. You just mentioned Miles Turner now is on your beloved Milwaukee Bucks, which I thought was a great pickup to solidify, their big guys that now they have. It's going to be really tough for them. I really do see this being a struggle for them. I do have them placed personally a bit higher, because maybe I think coaching is something that's going to be huge for them. I think Rick Carlisle could get a lot out of this bunch, and I think that they still have the majority of the team that they had that got them to the finals. So I think, it's just that it's a next man up mentality with them. And I think Carlisle does get the best out of his guys. So that's why I had them ranked a little bit higher. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a complete 180 of a year for them, 100% in this conference.
So now this is going to sound crazy, but the reality is this all revolves around Halliburton going down and him being out for the season. Obviously, like you both of you have mentioned, Miles Turner not being there anymore obviously hurts this team. It does. And now to not have your main facilitator and your main scorer and your main guy to look to in Halliburton being down, that's going to hurt. That's obvious. I could see them being a little better than where we have them placed at this point. But what I will say, and this is crazy to say, from a team that just came off an NBA Finals appearance, this is the best situation. The lower down they go, this is the best possible thing for them to gain a piece of draft capital, and now you're going to get a top pick in the draft to now pair with Halliburton and the rest of that young squad. This could almost be, now you don't wish injury on guys. You don't want to see things like that happen, obviously. But going forward and thinking about the future and how you could look at the glass being half full or refillable, as I like to say, this is what I mean by a situation like that, where, listen, the situation sucks. It is what it is. We can't change it. How could we benefit the most from it? Maybe you land yourself in top pick territory And now you have something lethal that you could pair with this kid Halliburton when he comes healthy. And that could be the best thing potentially for them. Obviously, you don't want to lose. You don't want to tank. It's not the end goal. You want to make the playoffs. And for the guys that are still with this team, the main core of this group that is still there, that is coming off that high of being in an NBA Finals, they can't even like go for retribution or whatever, because then there's not a complete team right now, and it is unfortunate. Listen, I'm a Knicks fan. I dealt with Reggie Miller growing up, so no love lost really for the Pacers, or you know what I mean, or in their situation. But reality is reality. This could overall be the best thing that could happen to them at this point.
That's true. That's a good point, because if they could get, if they're in the top 10, let's just say for picks, it's a win. And getting a healthy Halliburton back, who's still going to be under 30, in the prime of his career, and they have, like I said, they have a young squad. If Carlisle is still there, running the squad, it's a he keeps the team very cohesively together, and they run a very coherent offense and a very coherent defense, and they play very sound basketball. So yeah, Ro, that's a very good point. If they get a decent draft pick next year, anywhere from 1 through 10, it's definitely a win for that organization with the pieces they already have there.
Yeah, and I'll say this as well. I think it's a great point. Even if, let's say, they do finish with a top 10 pick, there's a chance they maybe don't draft somebody, pair that pick up with another first-round pick. You could get yourself an all-star maybe. Think about it like that. If you really want to add another all-star to add with Halliburton, just a thought.
That's a good point too, yeah.
And also, I'll say this to the viewers out there. We could move these when it's all said and done, when we have all the rankings. If we do feel like the Pacers could be a play-in team, we could move it, and we could move a team down. So it's still not fully finalized, if you know what I mean. So let's continue going on the play-in, the teams that have a chance at the playoffs. Starting off with the Miami Heat. I think this team is very interesting. Tyler Hero's unfortunately going to miss some time, the way that it's looking like right now. Bam Adebayo, very underwhelming year this past season for Bam Adebayo. Offensively, did not look the same. Khalil Ware, backup center, that's the guy I'm most hyped about. I know they traded for Norman Powell. Norman Powell's now on the Miami Heat. That's going to be great scoring. Another year of Jaime Jaquez. I love me some Jaime Jaquez. That guy, bro, he's one of the players I'll always support the most. This team, I'll be honest though, doesn't really move me. I think if you guys even wanted to at the end flip the Pacers with the Heat, I'd be perfectly fine with that, to be honest. Just because of the mentality, I feel like the Pacers have a little bit of still that rough edge around team. I don't really see that with Miami. I'll let you guys get into that, but not really. Not for me.
Yeah, I actually had the Pacers ahead of Miami this year. I think at this point, listen, Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He had those LeBron teams and Dwayne Wade and, the Bosch teams, and loses all those guys and still was able to get to an NBA Finals with Jimmy Butler and has able to make the playoffs pretty much every year in his tenure since that point in time, when a lot of people counted him out and thought that Miami would finish a lot lower than they did. They would finish right in the middle of the mix in this Eastern Conference, and he's been a very, very good head coach. I'll say that. He also is another coach that gets a lot out of his guys, whether it's young guys or veteran guys. So, listen, at the end of the day, I do think their roster isn't set up as good as Indiana's is right now, even with the loss of Halliburton. To me, right now, I think even with Spoelstra being able to coach them up, I still think it's going to be a struggle for them. And I think they're another team that's they're gonna have to use some draft picks. I think they're gonna need to use some draft capital and rebuild that way. I don't see how free agents are going to want to go there right now, because it doesn't look like they're going to be winning anytime soon.
So I'm going to go a little wild on this one. And this is where, like we mentioned, maybe the Pacers are going to play for that. I think they're a little better than where they're ranked, and where I said maybe the Hornets could be a little pesky. I could see maybe Miami getting off to a really rough start and not being able to recover, and then potentially selling off the deadline. And that could push them towards the bottom. I could see a scenario like that. I mean, maybe that's a little crazy, but maybe they really should reconsider a serious rebuild down there, because they haven't been able to get it done.
No.
They've moved on from Jimmy Butler. That was the centerpiece of that. So, your superstar is gone, your main focal point. If you're going to blow it up, blow it up. And if they get off to a rough start in the beginning, I know Pat Riley really doesn't have a lot of patience for that anymore. So I could see him cleaning house, and I could see potentially where, like I said, maybe Indiana, maybe, like I said, the Hornets, maybe they're the team that sneaks past them and because of Miami's downfall. So I could see them selling off. That wouldn't shock me.
That's a good point. I can see them giving up Bam too. I think Bam would be the biggest piece on that team right now. If he stays healthy and he could produce a little bit and show that he's got some value. I think maybe a team who needs a big man could trade for him in either conference. Maybe a team in the East needs some help down low, or a team in the West needs some help. I think he'll draw a lot of attention if Miami is out of it. If Miami's out of it early enough.
And Bam is locked up for a few years, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's got some years left on his contract. Yes.
All right,
I don't know. Maybe that's Indiana Pacers trading their pick next year for a Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, could be.
Retool.
Could be if they're retooling like
that. Yeah, depending on what they need. Yeah, at the time,
maybe.
I guess we'll see how it plays in the middle of the season. What they need.
That's a thought. Let's go to another team that I'm actually pretty high on this year, to be honest. The North. The Toronto Raptors.
Oh, wow.
I'm actually pretty high on this team, to be honest. I think this team, now they're going for it. I think this is now or never, the last year of Darko as their head coach, if they don't even fight for a play-in. If I see this team, and we'll get into that maybe in another video, I see this team as my 8th seed, to be honest. I actually think that they get in the playoffs. I love that they locked up Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram's always been one of my favorite players. I think him and Scotty Barnes, he could really benefit Scotty Barnes in that game right there. That's why I said it's all up to Darko and the way he coaches this team. It's now or never. I love Emmanuel Quickly. RJ Barrett, I think that might be a piece that they might move on. RJ Barrett really doesn't fit on that team as best. Grady Dick. Shout out everybody that loves Grady Dick. So I'll tell you this. I think Grady Dick is going to have a better year. You've seen the spurts of Grady Dick improving overall as an offensive player. I actually don't mind him in this system. I see a year stepping forward for Grady Dick. Another guy, Colin Boyles, that they drafted this year, great defender. I think this team is going to grow some identity this year. Finally, the Raptors making the steps in the right direction, post Siakam and post Kawhi. I'll let you guys get into it, but I actually like this Raptors team.
Potentially RJ Barrett being a trade piece, that could be potentially something that happens in the near future. So, I had them a little lower, but yeah, they could be a play. And it's like I said, the East is so wide open that anybody could make a move depending on if they make a trade or not, or depending on injuries. It really is up in the air. Like I said, I had them a little bit lower, but with Toronto, that's where I see them. I do see them sniffing the play-in, but I think they don't make it. But for here, we could say that they do sneak into the play-in.
I'm not as high on this team. I know they have they do have talent. I'm a big Emmanuel Quickly guy. Obviously, he came from the Knicks, and it's not why. I liked his energy. I like what he did off the bench. He seemed like a very solid 6-man option. RJ Barrett, I'm not. I just don't know. I was so high on him when the Knicks drafted him, and then the stock just kept going down. He's too inconsistent. He'll put up maybe 25 or 30 one night, and then he'll give you 12 and struggle from 3-point range. I mean, he frustrates me to no end because he really does have the talent. He just never puts it together on a consistent basis. If Toronto can get a consistent year out of them, Jay, I think like what you brought up, they might consider moving him. If you're going to if they're going to peak his value, you might as well try to get something for him.
Or if he struggles, maybe they trade Bonds.
Maybe I don't know. I'm not crazy about this team, but I don't know. I feel like they'll be pesky and in the mix. I just don't expect much out of them.
Yeah, because think about it. If you're not going to be competitive for the next 3 or 4 years, let's say, Scotty Barnes is 24, I believe, and Barrett's 25. You're sniffing at now them getting into their 30s, and they're not going to help you get to the playoffs. Maybe they wind up getting dealt in the next year or two. Maybe not so much 2025, 26, but it could happen in the next year or two that they may just feel like, hey, let's just blow this whole thing up completely.
I think the thing about Barnes and the thing about Quickly, obviously they didn't have the best year last year. And that's because Quickly basically off the bat got I think it was an eye injury when Darius Garland kind of landed on him, elbow first. And then Barnes got injured as well when Jokic elbowed him as well. They both got elbowed. Very ironic. But now that these two are both healthy, I think this team is going to gel really well. I think they're going to be that one team that jumps up and they're all like, well, Quickly's healthy. Barnes is healthy. They got 2 all-stars. Like I said, Colin Murray Boyles, who is now, I expect, going to be one of their biggest options off the bench because of how great his defense is. I followed him in college. I actually thought that was a very underrated pick in the draft. I am excited to watch the Raptors this year. We'll keep it moving to another play-in team right here. And that is kind of crazy to say right here. The Boston Celtics, a play-in team, which means they could still make it as a 7th or 8th seed, but I know JV in his rankings has them as the 6th seed and has the Hawks in the play-in, and we'll get into the Hawks for a second, but this Tatum injury, it's going to linger. It's going to linger because now Jaylen Brown is in a predicament he hasn't been in. Do I trust Jaylen Brown as a number 1? I got to be honest, I do. I do trust Jaylen Brown. I don't think Jaylen Brown's going to be the issue, actually. I think it's going to be the depth that they lost this past offseason in Drew and Porzingis and Luke Cornett off the bench. Their center depth right now, not good. You guys watching this, you guys know their center depth right now, not good. Who are they going to depend on at that center position? Horford's gone. Cornett's gone. Who are they going to depend on? Kada? Come on. I mean, that's just a thought. But the overall depth of this team, I think they did those moves moving along from the players, obviously getting under the cap, but as well because they know with the Tatum injury, it's more so of a retool, kind of the same way as the Pacers. Little retool when Tatum comes back. I know people are always going to talk about, are they going to explore the Jaylen Brown trade? I don't know. I really don't know. I'll throw it to you guys, but I don't know. That's one that's going to be a head scratcher. Might be an offseason move, kind of like a potential Giannis move, but that's just a thought.
And it depends on like the type of haul that they could get. For a guy like Brown, I don't see Boston really pulling that trigger. That would be to me like a sign of desperation for them. I think they're going to still be able to compete. You still have guys that were there last year that got them to the playoffs. I know Tatum is their biggest piece, and he's obviously out for the year. But you got Derek White there, you got Peyton Pritchard. You still have guys that are going to produce for them. Obviously their big men are terrible. I think Luka Garza is their backup center. I mean, when it comes to the big men, it's almost like you have 4 guys out there compared to having five guys out there. It's almost like you're losing that spot completely. But they did add Anthony Simmons. I like that move. We'll see what happens. Really, I don't think they pull a trigger on Brown. I just don't. They'll get Tatum back for the 2027 season, and they can pair them right back up again. I think that to me is almost like a shot in the dark and more of a desperation move for them. I don't see that happening, but I do see this team. With the way the East is, to me, it's so wide open. I do think they can make it as a 6th spot, like rounding out the top 6 and being that last spot. But I could also see them being a play-in as well. It's not far-fetched that you have them as a play-in. It's 100% something that could happen.
Yeah, I agree. But I could see them being a little higher. It is the Celtics. They still do have talent. I mean, I think Derek White's going to step up. He was a thorn in the Knicks side in that series last year. He's got potential. And now that he's going to have more of the share of the ball, I think he's going to flourish a little more. Obviously with Tatum not being around, I think Derek White could be an X factor for this team to maybe propel them a little bit. And that would obviously take a lot of pressure off of Jaylen Brown. I do like that tandem. I mean, also you got to remember, Jaylen Brown basically carried the Celtics when they won. He was the Finals MVP, no? So yeah, I could see him doing a lot, and I'm high on Derek White. He's just one of those players that, as a Knicks fan, watching that series last year was just like, come on, this guy got the ball again. I really can see him being a pain in the ass, if I'm being honest. Like, he's a good ball player. He could do a lot. He plays hard. He's got a lot of heart out there. So I like him in this role of maybe stepping up and having a bigger role and not so much being maybe the third option or maybe even the fourth, maybe when Porzingis was on the floor. Now that Porzingis isn't there either. I like this step up for him. I think we're gonna see something. We're gonna see something pretty decent come out of him. I think he's gonna step up to the challenge. If I'm being honest with you.
And like I said, I like their guard play. I really do with the addition of Anthony Simmons. Like I was saying before, and you add them with Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. I do like that their guard play, which could lead to some positivity for them, throughout the regular season.
Anthony Simons, I think, is going to be one of those. If they start off to a slower start, they might move him at the deadline because he's about to be a free agent. I don't expect that they re-sign him, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's more so of a financial thing, not because he's not a good player. The thing, I'm going to throw the question out to the chat. Everybody, if you guys want to comment, I'll throw it out to you guys. Is Tatum actually going to be out for the whole year? I don't know if you guys been seeing the clips, if you guys been seeing the videos, but it's looking like he's a little bit ahead of schedule, to say the least.
Really?
Yes. It's looking like he's ahead of schedule.
I haven't seen any clips of him, honestly.
And the way that he's talking about it, the way that Mazzulla's talking about it, it makes me think maybe he doesn't miss the whole year on some Paul George broken leg when the Paul George was with the Pacers. I know it's two different injuries, but I don't know if he'll miss the whole year.
Maybe it wasn't as bad as a rupture or a tear. I'm not sure. Maybe he's just in great shape where he's just rehabbing so good, like good enough, and it's just doing wonders. I'm not sure. I don't know, but that would be wild if he was able to get back, because he got hurt literally at the end of the year
in May.
And was going to be out supposedly the whole year. But hey, if he comes, like when you say come back, you mean like what? Like with like 30 games left?
No,
like
maybe like
through the year,
10, 15 games at the end of the year.
So
and
like
let's say
really towards like the end of the year.
And let's say they're battling for that 6-7 seed. There's going to be a purpose for him to come back at that point. So
yeah, I guess they could plug them in depending on where they're at. Like if they're on the cusp of making the playoffs, maybe they do. Or if it's so bad where all of a sudden, we're looking at them as not contending, that there's probably no point.
No point. I'll let Ro throw it to Ro real quick.
I'll be honest, even if they're in contention, bringing him back, I don't care what he feels. I think that's foolish. I'm not saying throw the season away, but to risk him long term to come back for a 7 seed, that's just not worth it, in my opinion. I'm sorry. It's just, I think that's foolish. I don't care if he's ahead of schedule. I don't care this or that. Yeah, I guess when you're healthy, you're healthy. But you know what? To risk it 10 or 15 games and maybe a first round exit potentially, is it really worth putting him on the floor?
Unless they think that they have great chances in the playoffs. That would be the only other. Maybe they feel like, hey, listen, if we get in, we feel like we could beat anybody at that point.
That's a good point, JB.
Yeah, but for the most part, these guys, when they come back from big injuries like that, they ease in a little bit, and coming back into the middle of a playoff push and the middle of fighting for a seed and everything like that, he's not going to be eased in. And I'm sorry, any competitor out there, you're going to put me in a meaningful basketball game or any type of sport that I'm playing. That means something. That means we have a chance to win. We have a chance to do that. This guy is an NBA champion. I mean, let's be honest. It is what it is. And the competitive mentality, you put me in those situations, you're not going to tell me to play easy. I'm sorry. It's either I don't play or you need an army to take me off the floor. And that competitive nature, I don't see it. To me, it's not worth it, because I think it should be eased in, and that's where the whole season off, it is what it is. Unfortunately, it does suck. You don't want to see this with the top-tier talent in the league. Fine, but that's where he can go into next season, ease in with maybe some preseason games, and just ease his way back slowly. There's no reason to rush this whatsoever.
I agree. I agree with that.
I just looked at a report right now, supposedly progressing very well. I don't know what that means. Could just be that his rehab
progressing very well could mean like he's progressing at a normal pace, just like they expected. It doesn't mean he could be ahead of
the way that they've talked about it in media day. It makes me feel like, would they be tempted to do it? The more so,
I can see it being a grab. honestly. A storyline grab, a headline grab. That's what I could really see.
Could
There's
be,
no
but
reason to do that. I think it's foolish.
Listen, if he does come back because he's actually healthy, that's wild. That'll
How
be the biggest
remarkable would that be? Let me ask you that.
It'll almost be as remarkable as Aaron Rodgers. I mean, to be that old and to do what he's doing, to be able to come back and play at even 85% of what he was is unbelievable to me. It just shows how good you have to stay conditioned as an athlete, no matter what sport it is. So if he comes back because he's actually healthy and he could go and he just wants to get some games in, it'll be unbelievable to me.
It would.
I agree.
It would. Let's move on to the last team. I know you guys don't like them, neither do I. The Philadelphia 76ers. This is the team of question marks, the team of trusting the process, the team of, is Joel Embiid gonna stay healthy? And he played preseason today actually. He played his first game in a few, maybe up to 5-6 months, because he had that surgery in April, and then he was out for the season in February. Paul George is going to miss the opener. Looks like he might be missing some time. No backs-to-backs for Paul George or Embiid. This team, look, I still love Maxey. Maxey's one of my favorite players in the league. Just, that guy's a dog mentality. VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor. Big fan of that pick with the 3rd overall pick. Jared McCain, he tore his UCL in his thumb. They're starting off rough. They're starting up banged up. We're lucky, honestly, if you want to be honest. They could be right here at a point, maybe right there. The Pacers jump them because this team is question marks all over it. We got to be honest.
Yeah, I have no faith in the Sixers at all right now. I mean, I had them finishing behind Boston. I actually do have them finishing above Atlanta because I think that their roster is a little bit better than Atlanta's right now. I think after Trae Young, to me, Atlanta is really not that great of a basketball team. It's a flip-flop for me with Philly and Atlanta. That's just my opinion. I think Atlanta always finishes. They always have an underwhelming season, and I do think if Philly could keep Embiid healthy, they'll finish in front of them. That's just how I feel. I feel like with him and Maxey, those two guys are so key to that lineup. I think that they could actually, jump ahead of Atlanta, and I think Atlanta has a lot to prove. I feel like they always finish a lot lower than what I expect. Last year, I had them finishing, a lot higher than they did, and they didn't. I just feel like they have a lot to prove to me. I do feel like it's a flip flop, but I do have Philly, just above Atlanta in this conference.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I have no use for the Sixers. I have no use for Joel Embiid. I'm a Knicks fan. You saw what he did the last time they played each other in the playoffs, trying to hurt people, trying to act the way he does. I think he's, one of the biggest crybabies in basketball, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I really just have no use for him. I respect his talent, but what good is his talent if he's not on the floor? I think since 2018, Carmelo Anthony has played more NBA games leading up to today than Joel Embiid, and Carmelo Anthony retired in 22.
That's a great stat, to be honest.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. Tyrese Maxey, on the other hand, he is a Sixer. Like what Ben said, I love watching that kid play. He is a dog. He is a dog. I thought that year, after the their run, and then Joel obviously got hurt. I thought off rip they should have traded Joel and built around Maxey at that point. Like, I think Maxey is now taken over to an extent. If Embiid hasn't realized, and I understand he's the face, but Maxey is a spark plug beyond spark plugs. I think there could be potential. Obviously, it all revolves around if Embiid stays healthy. If Embiid stays healthy with Tyrese Maxey, and maybe they make a move to improve the roster at the deadline, I mean, you're potentially talking about this team flying into the 4th, 3rd, maybe even 2nd seed if they really wanted to. They have the talent.
Yeah.
And like I said, Maxey could run an offense. He plays like almost reminds me of Westbrook when Westbrook first came around. He just leaves it all out on the floor. The kid is a lightning rod. I love watching him play. And I hate admitting
a better shooting Westbrook. That's a good.
Yes, that's a great analogy right there.
Yeah, his heart is out on the floor. He plays with so much passion, so much grit, so much energy. There's no stopping this kid. If the Sixers could move on from Embiid somehow and get some value back and maybe some picks and really build the team around Maxey, I think they could really genuinely be something special. And that's really wild for me to say, but
this
trust the process thing hasn't worked. And a lot has to do with Embiid's health.
It's true.
And Ben Simmons being a punk.
Yeah, Ben Simmons. Yeah,
I mean that's a whole nother story in itself.
We might make a video about that. That's bad, bro.
Maybe we will. Maybe we will. I don't know. I feel like I've said some bold statements when it regards to the Sixers. I'll ask everybody in the comments. Go ahead, say something back. Let's hear it. Call me crazy. Tell me
I feel like Philly would trade Embiid. I just don't see it being a midseason thing. I think it's an off-season move that they would do. I think that the organization would have to come together and really discuss that as an off-season thing. Just have a clear head. I don't see a midseason move being made by them with him being involved in anything, especially if they're on the cusp of maybe making a play-in. Like we have them in, I don't see them moving Embiid, especially if he's healthy. They're going to want to get as much as they can out of him being healthy.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe that's an off-season thing, yeah.
More so. Let's keep on moving to a team I'm actually pretty high on, finishing 6th. I don't know. I'll try to sell the pitch to the guys right here. I know they might have them play in or maybe barely 6-y. But this is Trae Young's make or break year in Atlanta. And I'll say something right now, and you guys could take this one to the shop. If Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks don't finish anywhere from 1st through 6th, Trae Young next year will no longer be an Atlanta Hawk. Book it. It's the truth.
I agree with that.
It's the truth.
I agree with that.
He's up for an extension. They haven't gave it to him. They haven't agreed on anything close. This is a no bueno zone. And maybe for the Hawks, they're just not comfortable giving him that. Because since 2021, how many playoff series has he won? Goose egg. 0, exactly. My friend.
Which is why I had Philly. Actually, I know, Philly's got a lot of question marks too. I actually had Boston in the 6th spot, rounding out the top 6. Philly in the 7th and Atlanta in 8th.
Well, let me try to.
I really do. I don't see how, like you just said, Ben. They haven't won a playoff series.
But
so
you know
what's for me to give them the credit and say, yeah, you're going to be, in that 1 through 6 spotlight. I don't think they deserve it. They have to prove me wrong.
Well. And I'll get into it. Like I said, I'm going to sell it because I think their offseason moves were A1. And they had, according to GMs, they were the best team this offseason when it comes to winners. They signed the best 3-and-D player out there in free agency, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was a major contributor for the Timberwolves. They traded for Kristaps Porzingis. Look, obviously the guy and his health. We don't know what he caught last year, but it was getting to his respiratory system. Hopefully he's good. He said he's good now. Porzingis is there. Luke Kennard is now Atlanta Hawk, another shooter from the bench. Zachary Sachet, the number 1 pick. We saw his steps forward at the end of the year. I'm excited to see another year of him. Jalen Johnson, my gosh, the Wisconsin kid. He's finally healthy. He had that shoulder injury that took him out.
Yes.
He's going to be a first-time All-Star. I'll say that right now. This team has to be a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. It's do or die for this team because then Trae Young leaves, and I don't know, because you could think what you want about Trae Young, but that would not be the best. I know his efficiency isn't the best, but at the end of the day, his playmaking is phenomenal. He assists-wise, he's one of the best to do it in the league.
Yeah, and like I said, let's see what they can get from Johnson, and if Porzingis is not going to be healthy as well, if he's another guy that plays 50 to 55 games and misses close to 30 again, I just don't see how this team is going to be able to gel and make a run for that 6th seed. I just don't. I don't have any faith. And like I said, if they're not clicking and if they're injured, if they're injured too much, how are they going to bridge the gap? I just don't see how they bridge that gap. Porzingis to me always has a problem. He's always going to miss upwards of 15 to 20 games, maybe even more. I'm not wishing it on him, but I'm just saying his track record has proven it. And
reality is reality.
Yeah, reality is reality at that point, like Mike just said. So I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if it did happen, I wouldn't be surprised that Porzingis is going to miss some time at some point, and just the amount of youth they have on that team. I just, me personally, I don't see them rounding out the 6th spot. I do think they either make it as a play-in, as a back end play-in team.
I see them as a play-in, but a play-in that makes noise. I feel like if they get in, they can match up. That's what I could see them doing. I don't know if I really see them in a 5th or 6th spot. But I think that, like I said, if they get into a play-in spot, which I think they will, they have the talent, they'll make noise. The other thing, though, with Trae Young, I think regardless of how this season ends, I think he's out. I think no matter what, I think he's out.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see, even if they make the playoffs and maybe win a series, I still think it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think he's out.
I think his time is done there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good riddance. Send him to the Western Conference. I don't want him shooting from the Knicks logo no more. See you later.
I'll take him on the Bucks. If that could convince Giannis to stay, another point guard like that, an actual point guard that can facilitate,
that could be a thing.
I'll be cool with that. All right, let's go on to the 5th place team. I mean, like I said, we could always switch it at the end, but I have the Detroit Pistons, a team that, compared to where they were 2 years ago, the worst team in the league, one of the worst teams in the league. I think they were the worst team in the league. Now they went to a 6th seed spot last year, gave the Knicks a run for their money. Now I see them, being right there, 5th or 6th seed. I have them 5th seed. I do think they make a little bit of progress. Cade Cunningham, obviously, we know how incredible that guy is as a player. Jalen Duren, to be a top 10 center in the league. I really like Jalen Duren. They have some good depth around Cade Cunningham. Asar Thompson, finally he's healthy. No more of the blood clot issue he had as well. I like this Pistons team.
Caris LeVert they added too.
Caris LeVert, that's a good one. Yep, they added Caris LeVert.
They got some decent depth on
Duncan
that team.
Robinson from the Heat. Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson. Yeah, that's a good.
He's a Piston. So they replaced Duncan Robinson more so as like the Malik Beasley replacement, because he might be cooked. So think about it like that. I think that's a good 3-and-D replacement. I'll throw it to you guys. I think this Pistons team is heading in the right direction. That's what I will say.
Yeah, I mean, and they have a couple of good veterans. Obviously, Tobias Harris being that veteran, great post up shooter that that they could always rely on. Like you said, they made the playoffs last year. They gave the Knicks a run for their money, going 6, I believe. It was in that first round. Listen, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next few years. They have young talent. Like I said, they added some veteran depth as well. Duncan Robinson's going to be a great shooter for them coming to that team. I think he's going to allow them to open up the floor a little bit as well. A lot of spot up shooting there. So I really see Detroit. I had them the same spot you had them, Brew. So I really do think that they're gonna make some noise in this conference. I don't think they're gonna be a team that should be overlooked anymore. I think they're here to stay.
You know what? They scared me a little bit last year. They do have, like you guys have both hit every nail on the head. Cade is a bad man. That kid is a bad man. I mean, he went through, what did they have? A 17, 18, probably longer game losing streak 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he, you saw the frustration. You saw what he came from. I mean, you want to talk about legitimately starting from the bottom of the NBA and turning it around that fast. I mean, that kid, I think the sky is the limit for him. I think he's going to eventually completely break out and be an absolute monster. This could be the season that it happens. I mean, he's shown he has the ability to do so. Listen, don't be completely shocked. This is a team I'm high on, honestly, Detroit.
Yeah.
Don't be completely shocked if they sneak up into a 4th or even a 3rd seed. I would not be surprised.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what, though? Kind of playing devil's
advocate. That's a bold statement, but
it is. But you know what? I rock with it. You got good reasoning behind it. And honestly, depending how that chemistry even flows, could be a top, like you said, maybe a top 3 seed. Who knows? Really, who knows? Honestly, though, I hope it's not the case, but at the same time, I don't care. Kind of how the Kings reached their ceiling with the Fox Sabonis 2 years ago when they made it as a 6 seed, and then they fell back afterwards, back to like being mid. Eyes on that for the Pistons. maybe a little bit of a downhill touch. Just a thought. Just a thought.
That's not a bad thing either way.
The only reason why I see it is because let's say the Sixers go through some injury. Let's say the Hawks aren't playing well. Maybe they go through some injuries as well. Obviously, Boston's missing Tatum. Who knows what else happens? I think they'll be able to survive due to the fact that this East is just open, and they have, like I said, they had the talent last year to make it when everybody was healthy. Boston was at full strength. The Knicks were at pretty much full strength. I really see them sticking around.
Yeah, fair enough though.
Even in the next coming years, I see them sticking around.
That's a good point. All right, let's go into the 2 through 4. I think this is where it's going to get spicy. Who do we have as a first seed? Who do we have coming in short? 4th seed, I know JB has them at 3, but I have my Milwaukee Bucks in the 4th seed. Guess what? I do think as long as Giannis is healthy and is playing anywhere from 65 to 68 games per year, we're going to be a top 4 seed in the East. There's no other way around it, especially with this maybe being the last hurrah for Giannis. I see us being a 4 seed. I really do like this roster around Giannis. It's like a bunch of misfits. Miles Turner coming in. Finally, Giannis doesn't have to play center. Thankfully, he finally doesn't have to play center. I wouldn't mind if he plays a little bit of point, to be honest. Doc might implement that. AJ Green just got an extension today. I don't know if you guys seen 4 years, $45 million. That guy is a sharpshooter. They call him Derry Bird for a reason. I love this team. I think it's a bunch of misfits. Portis off the bench re-signed. Trent Jr. still there. I love this team. I think as long as Giannis Antetokounmpo is healthy, this team will be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. No other way around it.
Listen, and to go to your point, that's why I got them 3rd. If he's healthy, they're going to be. And listen, like you said, you made a great point. He is not playing center, which means he's not going to be after banging bodies with guys that are 7 foot. He could go back to that 4 spot and completely dominate out of that 4 spot and not have to worry about matching up with centers and having to worry about making tough rebounds or having to just go up against the 5 when he's not really built to go up against 5s. He's really built to go dominate against 4s. And now that he's back to his natural spot, I think that's why the Bucks are going to be in the top 3. I can't see them finishing any lower than that, just because if Giannis plays, to me, 70 games, which I think he's going to be able to pride himself on trying to play a full season, especially now that he goes back to that 4 spot, and maybe it benefits him health wise. I really do see them honing in and being in that top 3.
Yeah, fair enough.
I could easily see that as well. Definitely top 4, top 3 would not surprise me either. They got Giannis. I don't even need to say anything else. Yeah, listen, Ben, you hit it perfectly. They built a little bit of a different offense around him. They're taking him out of his position. I don't want to basically regurgitate what you two had already said, but it is reality. Facts are facts. They've constructed a little bit of a different roster now. They've moved on from certain pieces. They're trying everything to now, get back to that aspect of winning a championship. And at the end of the day, if the East is this wide open, technically, no Boston, no Indiana, really. They're not, unless one of them shock us. But, you got one of the best players in the game right now who could do just about anything, and you're giving him a half wide open East. Why not run away with it, or at least try, or at least get yourself and put yourself in that position? I mean, it's Giannis we're talking about.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Let's go on to a team that I'm actually very high on that I think will finish 3rd, and that is the Orlando Magic. And that's a plethora of reasons. One, I think if we're counting health, and you can flip them if you want to do Orlando 4, Milwaukee 3, totally fine. But the Desmond Bane trade, and now that the fact that they're fully healthy, Bane trade's going to help their offense. They were one of the worst offenses in the league, actually, and still were the 7 seed. So that's actually something to keep in mind. But they're a top 3 defense in the league, in my opinion. They're going to be a top 3 defense in the league. Again, I love this Orlando team and the way it's constructed all around. Paolo, Franz, Desmond Bane, Jalen Suggs. Hopefully he stays healthy. I'll throw it to you guys, but I love Orlando this year.
Yeah, and I had said yes when we did the Western Conference, bro. I'm not sure if you remember. I said Memphis is really going to feel the loss of Bane when it comes to his shooting ability. John Morant's really going to see that firsthand, and the rest of those starters are going to see how big of a piece Desmond Bane was for them competing in the West. And I think Orlando getting him in this East, and especially like Ro was saying, how it's it's kind of wide open. I think Orlando is going to make the most noise, and I think they're going to make the most positive noise when it comes to a younger team competing, in that top 6, trying to get, a guaranteed playoff spot. I know you had them finishing 3 over your Bucks. I do think due to inexperience, that's why they're not going to finish over the Bucks. I do think, that they'll maybe trip up a couple times during the year where their inexperience shows, and that's why I think they're a 4 seed. But yes, you like you said, you can flip them 3 and 4, just to see how many games Giannis plays, like you said. But I do think that Orlando, in my opinion, finishes 4, which to me is still phenomenal for them to even be in the middle of that pack. But they have a young, great team, and I think like the Pistons, I think they're here to stay as well. Even when the East gets a little stronger, when some teams get their injured players back, I think they're here to stay. I don't think it's a hoax with this team.
So I don't think it's a hoax, and I think they do have the talent. Ben mentioned they brought on Desmond Bane. They have a very good defense, which is a very rare thing now in this day and age with the NBA. Nobody plays defense anymore. My biggest issue is the health of Paolo. I think they're going to live and die on that, if I'm being totally honest. I know he's had some little blips in it and some history with some injuries in the past. That can't be a thing if they're going to be a top 3, but maybe a potential top 2 or a top 4 team in the East. He can't miss any time. He can't miss a substantial amount of time. That's going to hurt them, and it could bury them as far as their chances of landing a top seed. I genuinely believe, as much as I think their roster is well constructed, I think they're going to live and die on Paolo's health. If he stays healthy, this team is going to be very dangerous. Now, outside of maybe inexperience, when they do actually get into the playoffs, see what type of noise they really do make. But I think it all boils down to if Paolo stays healthy.
That's a great point. I mean, it's 100% understandable too.
That's super fair. All right, let's get into the moment of truth. 2nd seed, 1st seed, and we're going to place both of them, obviously, because at that point, one's going to be left. So, are the Cleveland Cavaliers going to repeat as the 1st seed? No, they will not. We actually have the Knicks. I promise you it's not because of these 2 jobbers that are here that are Knicks fans. I didn't get forced.
Listen,
I promise you.
We've been waiting. Me and Mike have been waiting since we were in diapers to say that the New York Knicks could be a 1 seed. Do you know how excited this makes me to even potentially say that we are 3 sane individuals putting the Knicks in the 1 spot? I would never have thought it. Just the Knicks making the playoffs the last couple of years has been absolutely energetic. It's been breathtaking. It's been phenomenal. It's rejuvenated the city. For years, since I've been 5 years old, it's been considered the mecca of basketball, and it hasn't been when it came to the New York Knicks. The Knicks weren't living up to their end of trying to keep it the mecca of basketball. Everybody else liked coming to the Garden and playing as a visitor, but playing for the New York Knicks was a disaster. It's not the case anymore. And the fact that we get to throw them in the 1 slot as a team that's going to win the East is just something that makes me feel ecstatic. And I can't wait for this season to start and see what this team can do in this East. I don't care who's injured, who's not. I still think they'd be a top 3 seed, whether Jason Tatum was playing for Boston or whether the Sixers, had injury problems or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter to me. I still think that this team really is going to take the 1 spot this year. I think they will battle with Cleveland. I really do think they will. But I do think they come on top. And I do think with Mike Brown now at the helm, you're going to see isolation ball is not going to be a thing anymore. A lot of guys are going to be touching the ball. Mike Brown likes to pass the ball a lot. He likes to make those 3 or 4 passes and find the open shooter. They like to play fast transition offense, which the Knicks usually don't do. Like I said, they were very isolation heavy under Thibodeau, and the one positive I think we're going to see with this change is they're going to play a faster pace offense, and a lot of guys are going to touch the ball. The Knicks adding some pieces. Jordan Clarkson is a great piece. I really do think that the Knicks are going to win the Eastern Conference. I can't believe I'm saying it, but Ro, I'll throw this to you since you're a Knicks fan. I want to know how you feel about this.
Listen, I think you have made amazing points. I think they have improved. I think one weird thing is the Brogdon retirement news. I thought that was a little strange. That kind of short arms us as the point guard position goes, because realistically, who is their backup now? So I think that does hurt. But like I said, Jay, you hit every point beautifully. You feel good, right?
Oh man, and like it's just so good. I mean, and they added Yabusele from Philly. They really strengthened their big man, the big men, to go with Mitch. I just think this roster's ready to go. Honestly, bro, I think it's now or never. Honestly, with this team.
That's all fair and good, and I'm glad you feel good. But here's reality. They're not taking the number one spot.
Really?
And it's not. Yeah, I at least that's where I'm at right now. And only reason being, one, I'm a Knicks fan. Been there, seen that. Every way that I could be hurt by this team, I've been hurt by this team. So there is that, and I'm just a little pessimistic when it comes to them, regardless of talent. I do like what they've done. Like you said, you've hit everything as far as what I like. What I've seen them build is what I'm happy with. I'm very happy. I'm pleased. The fact that Tatum is out for the year, the fact that Halliburton is out for the year, the fact that this East is essentially wide open. We have a few top teams, but it could essentially be wide open. Reality is, when it comes to the Cavaliers, I think as a regular season team, I think the Cavaliers are better. Being a regular season team. I don't think that translates in the playoffs. I think the Knicks could take them in a series. But I think just overall as a regular season team, I think the Cavaliers will and not by much. It might be a game or two. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be by much. I just see them being just a little bit better as a regular season team. And I don't know, because then the Knicks get number one. Now that creates the target. Granted, it's home court throughout the playoffs. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see them be a number one slot. I don't remember the last time they were a number one seed in the East or number one anything since the last time they won a championship in the 70s. Reality is, I also want to see how the Mike Brown offense is going to work. I want to see what that really does look like in the regular season. I want to see how he's going to rotate his pieces. What they're going to do with the backup point guard position now. Like I said, with the Brogdon retirement news just a few days ago, which again, I don't understand. It's unfortunate because that happens, and it was 24 hours after Russell Westbrook signed in Sacramento. That would have been a great option.
I think they're going to go Tyler Kolek, and I think Landry Shamet now is going to make this team coming out of camp. I think that's what's going to happen now.
Ben Simmons is still available.
Yeah,
please
go take a walk.
Like that.
Go take a walk. Go take a walk. Ben Simmons is still available. Why don't you guys sign him?
I will say this, bro. Just to go to your point about Cleveland taking the one spot. I'm not trying to say that they got lucky last year, but them winning, bro. Maybe you know this better than me. I think they went 16-0.
Yeah, they started off 16-0. Yep.
So I mean,
that's not going to happen again.
I don't think that's going to happen again. And
no.
If the Knicks can, just keep up with them, I really do see them taking the one spot this year. I think the Knicks just have a better roster. I think they'll be better coached, and I think they'll now with the new offense, I think it's going to actually benefit them, and we'll see what happens.
I want to see the first month before I make that determination. I'm still just so. I
get it. I get it. I'm gonna go out there and say, you know what? I'm
you're bought in, and that's fine.
Do it.
I'm
bought in, and they're taking it. That's it.
Listen, I was straight with you too. If the Knicks don't get the one seed, if they are the two, even if they're the three, I don't necessarily. Yeah. I don't doubt their ability to make a run at the finals.
No,
it is what it is. All right, so they're not going to have home court in a series or two or whatever it is. That's fine. I still think they're going to have the ability to end up representing the East, whether they're 1, 2, or even 3. But I could see maybe just the way the Cavaliers have played in the regular season, and then kind of they seem to be a regular season team. They're built for the regular season, they're not built for the playoffs. And I think that's what's going to happen again. I think the Knicks are built and constructed just a little differently because they beat Boston last year. Nobody had them beating Boston. I think they were like plus 1,000 in the sports books.
Yeah, they were
to win that series. So I think they've shown that they're built for the playoffs. It obviously, listen, you couldn't get at nobody outside of OKC. Indiana was just with Tyrese Halliburton until that injury. I mean, that was later on in the series, and it was kind of over at that point. But I mean, you weren't getting past them. They had the magic. It was what it was.
Sure.
I think they're built for the playoffs. I don't necessarily think they're maybe built for win records and taking number one spots. But again, I want to see the first month.
Yeah, I think what kind of sells me on the Knicks necessarily is their bench depth. I've really liked this bench depth that they've even Brogdon aside, he probably wasn't going to get the minutes he might have wanted. Maybe Kolek was having a better camp, or Shamet was having a better camp, and maybe he was just out of date with the game. Maybe he just fell out of love with the game, and that's a true possibility that could have happened. But at the end of the day, I think this Knicks team right now, and we'll end it off the video with, I'll go one by one, but this Knicks team, not only do I think is going to be finishing first place, I think it's two things. One, Eastern Conference Finals or bust. If they don't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals,
yeah, not a good look for Mike Brown.
Not a good look. Not a good look in general, depending what happens. Two, I do believe this is going to be the team that represents the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. I do have them making it out. I think they're the most complete team. I think Jalen Brunson, top 10 player in the league, in my opinion. Karl Anthony Towns, who knows? Maybe he's 29. Maybe he takes another step to the right direction in the sense that, he a little bit more post-game heavy. Who knows? But I do like Cat. Who I love the most? OG. That's my guy. Mm-hmm. OG is my guy. Straight dog mentality with OG. Mikal Bridges, start off the season more hot than you did last year, starting off. That's another thing. The bench, Clarkson, potential 6th man of the year contender right there. Same thing with, I think Mike Brown actually might start Josh Hart off the bench.
He is going to start.
I think that'll be really good, though.
And Clarkson off the bench, yeah.
Really good. That would be really good, especially what Tips put their bodies through last year. Really good right there.
Absolutely.
I'll throw it to Mike, and I'll throw it to JV just to finish it off. Do you, or just in general, who do you guys have making it out the Eastern Conference?
I do have the Knicks making it out of the Eastern Conference. I do. Yeah. I'm just not sold. And it's wild to say that, like, my pessimistic ways with the Knicks, I don't want to put them at a 1 seed, but I have them actually going to the finals. What you said, it's Eastern Conference or bust. I think it's a little more than that. I think it's finals or bust. Honestly, at this point, because you made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, you have accomplished that, and it's time to take that next step, and that's going to the finals and potentially winning it all. Depending on who comes out of the West, it is what it is. We'll see how that plays out. OKC is built for the next 3 to 5 years times 5. I mean, again, like I said, that's the trend of this video. But in reality, the Knicks are my representation coming out of the East. I think they're just built for it. And again, I just want to see the offense. I want to see this team play for at least a month, and I'll have a little more of a determination with the new coach.
Yeah, no, listen, and just to go off what Ro was saying, I 100% see them coming out of the East. I think they have enough talent this year. I think with the way the offense is going to look, I know Mike Brown in the league a very long time. He likes to run fast-paced offenses. He likes everybody. All 5 guys in the court are going to touch the basketball. They like to pass to the open guy and take the open shot and spread everybody out. You're not going to see one guy dribble for 15 seconds and, eat half of the shot clock. It's just not going to happen. Brunson's going to be running all over the place. Cat's going to be moving all over the place. They're going to have guys moving around because they have the athleticism. So I personally can't wait. And that's why I think they have now all the pieces in line for them to step up and actually come out of the East and represent the East in the finals.
Real quick, since we didn't do it in the West video, real quick, who do you have making out the West? I have the Nuggets.
You know what? I have Nuggets OKC in the Western Conference Finals, and I think it's just so hard to say, but you know what? I'm going to go OKC. I think they have those young pieces are still so good. I think they make a return.
What about you, Mike?
OKC. Yeah.
I have Nuggets, Knicks, and real quick to predict the finals, I have the Nuggets winning it in 7. I think Denver wins another championship.
I have the Nuggets winning in 6. Excuse me, the OKC winning in 6.
Yeah, I would jump on that.
Yeah, I don't think if the Knicks get there, I don't think they're gonna win it. Unfortunately,
dang.
Even if they play Denver, even if Denver snuck out and got to the finals,
I think they could actually be. I think they could take Denver.
No, they don't have they don't have what it takes to defend Jokic. I'm sorry. It's just Jokic is just too good.
Nobody has what it takes to defend Jokic.
Exactly. So that's
You
my
know who
point.
could?
Like,
Maybe Ben Simmons if you guys sign him.
Oh
Yeah,
my
okay.
God. Go
Maybe,
take a
yeah.
walk. Enough.
might be the
Maybe Mitchell Robinson could bang bodies with him, but other than that, I don't know. I don't see how that's gonna happen.
Ben Simmons.
But we'll see what happens. I don't think they win. Whether they get there, if they get there, they're not going to win. So that's just my personal opinion.
I guess it's more of the pessimistic Knicks fan.
Yeah, that's just like I said, the West is just too good. OKC is too good. Denver is too good. I don't see how they beat those two teams. They have a better shot against Denver, I think. Yes, but I think Jokic would still be with too much to handle. But OKC's lineup through and through is just crazy, and I don't think they'd have what it takes. They probably lose that series in 5. Honestly,
wow.
If they played OKC, they lose in 5.
All right. Well, with that being said, I'll let you guys have any final thoughts. But this has been a great analysis, great in-depth predictions for the Eastern Conference.
Absolutely.
As you know, Bucks, Knicks fans right here, giving the breakdown, unbiased, not Homer. We gave the facts right here. I'll let you guys throw it out, but it's been a great episode right here, guys.
Yeah, can't wait for the season to start. Like I said, it's going to be a great season, and to see how everything pans out and our predictions, and we'll see where we lie at the end of the year. This will be good to rehash at the end of the year to see where we sat.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be fun to look back on and see how wrong we are with probably a lot of this crap. No, but what I would like to say to everybody out there, if we're about an hour, a little more than an hour and 15 in on this episode, so what I would like to say, if you've made it this far, we truly do appreciate you. We love you. We love the fact that you're still here. And I'm going to ask to now give your prediction and let us know what your list is. Who's going to make what? Who's going to be represent? Who's going to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth? We want to hear it all. You could even separate them in comments if you like. That would be even better. The more comments, the better. We appreciate it. The other reality is to it as well. This is you guys motivate us to do this, the views and everything. So again, as always, we do appreciate you being here. And if you've made it this